Okay, so hi, it's Rebecca from 90 Day Fiance, and this is a follow-up video for the video that I did talking about being a private investigator and how you get into it, how I got into it in the state of Georgia. So if you haven't watched that, feel free to check it out. I will say again, just remember that I live in the state of Georgia and I'm only familiar with those laws. So if it's something that you're interested in doing and you don't live in Georgia, please double check that your state regulations are, similar to ours or whatever. But I wanted to discuss some of the crazier cases that I did. One of the first cases that I did was really crazy because, um, you know, one of the things that you do as a private investigator is you always make sure that you have what we call a jump bag in the car. I think that comes from being an EMT or a paramedic or something, a jump bag where it's got all the stuff you need in it. But it's a change of clothes, snacks. You always want to keep snacks, definitely. Drinks, anything that I used to keep my knitting and crocheting in my bag, which I know doesn't sound exactly very exciting or PI-ish, but when you sit in your car for 10 or 12 hours at a time doing surveillance, you have to keep yourself busy. So that was one of the things that I kept. I always had my iPad on me. One of the things that I didn't really cover in the first video is kind of what you do on a PI case. So in my situation, the company that I worked for, they were down in South Georgia. They were located all around Georgia, but Melanie lives down in South Georgia, so we didn't see each other on a regular basis. She would email me the case file. She would call me, say, hey, did you get the case file? This is what's going on. This is the history. She really had the hardest part because she was the one that had to deal with the clients, sign them up, get the contracts done, get the backstory on what's going on. And no one is happy when they have to hire a private investigator. So she was a therapist a lot of the times. There were a few times where she would go on like family vacations or something, and she would turn the company phone over to me. And I totally respected her position at that point because I would rather, one thing about being a PI is you get very used to sitting by yourself and not talking to other people because that's the goal. You're not supposed to be interacting with the person that you're watching. So, or you're just sitting in your car. So the hardest part is having to remember how to socialize and how to interact with people. Like you just get so used to sitting in your car by yourself or sitting in a bar by yourself because you're watching someone or whatever. But so anyway, she would send me the case file. She would call me, did you get it? This is what's going on. This is what the client is looking for. She really thinks, or he really thinks that their significant other is cheating, or I did some corporate cases for corporate theft, whatever the case may be. You find out specifically what your goal is. You find out what information they already have as far as like addresses where people live or work, go to school, whatever. And then you just follow up and you do everything that you can to get the information that they want. And the hardest thing is, one of the hardest things is that, especially for the client to understand, is we can't control what these people do. It is completely unscripted all the time. And if I sit and do surveillance for 10 hours and get 0 photos because nothing happens, that's not my fault. So I still get paid regardless. But if you never turn over results, I had cases where we worked for 2 weeks and I never got what we were looking for. And that's so difficult to deal with because it can have nothing to do with my ability as a PI. If there's nothing going on, there's nothing going on. But you do everything that you can to make sure that you get what the client is paying for because, generally speaking, sometimes it's $75 or more an hour for me to go out, and there's almost always a 3-hour minimum. So it's not cheap to hire a PI. So me as a PI, when I'm on a case, I'm always thinking about the client and, emotionally what they're looking for and financially what they're paying for it. Um, so what's interesting is I learned not to be afraid. I learned that when I was in a situation where I was really scared to go in somewhere or do something or say something, that it wasn't about me, it was about the client and what they wanted. And I didn't have the choice to say, you know what? I was scared. I didn't want to do it. It was a dark place. It was, I didn't trust the people that were around me or, whatever. I just did it. I can't remember a single time where I said, you know what, I'm so sorry. It was just too scary. I couldn't do it. There were lots of times that I called and said, oh my God, that was so freaking scary, but I got it. So you really have to have nerves of steel and be willing to step way outside your comfort zone in order to do this. Like case in point, putting trackers on someone's car, and it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and it's dark, it's a cul-de-sac, and you don't know what kind of dogs are in the area. There's almost always security cars and people, and even at 2 o'clock in the morning, people are out. People can, they're peeking out their windows if they see something weird. And there was one time that I had to throw my lunch, or my dinner at that case. I had a turkey sandwich in my car, and I needed to get in to the end of this guy's driveway where he was parked out by the mailbox to put a tracker on his car. And I was told that they had motion lights, and they had a dog, but that the dog would be put up, and therefore the motion lights, because I wasn't going to be in the driveway, the motion lights shouldn't come on. They are at the end of a cul-de-sac in a very nice neighborhood, probably 700,000 to $1 million homes. And I pull down there, and I park way down the street. I go bebopping up the street to go find this car. And it's a really super nice Mercedes, I think it was, or it was either a Mercedes or a BMW, but I think it was a Mercedes. And I get there and I lay down on the ground to go to do it. And out of the blue, this dog comes tearing down the driveway. They left the dog out. It turns on the brightest runway looking lights I've ever seen in my life. And I'm just standing there. And at that point, you have to kind of decide, do you run? Do you walk away? Do you stand there? Like, what do you do? So you're always having to make like instant decisions that could be life or death at that point. So I ran back to my car. I grabbed my sandwich, ran back to where I was, called the dog away from the property enough so that the lights would go off. The timer, would go off. And I threw him my sandwich. And while he was eating the sandwich, I put the tracker on the car and I walked away. I stayed hungry for the rest of the night, but I got the job done. Another kind of interesting case that proved I had nerves of steel. I had to go all the way to South Carolina, right across the border to South Carolina. It was a child custody case. I did a lot of those, and I didn't like that. But the client who hired me was actually going to lure the person that I was trying to get surveillance done on, or I was trying to get a tracker put on their car so that we could do surveillance. She was actually going to lure that person to a shopping center and get her to go into the shopping center so that then I could put the tracker on the car. And this was in the middle of the day. So sure enough, the lady pulls up. I'm parked in front of this big sporting goods store, like 2 or 3 spots down from the front. And this person pulls in, and of course I know the tag number and what kind of car it is and what the description of the person. They pull in and park directly in front of me and make eye contact with me, which I'm not trying to do. And I'm texting the client and I said, she's here, and she parked right in front of me. So the client comes walking over, and she gets to the lady's car, the driver's door, and she was trying to get her to go into the sporting goods store. Now, keep in mind, if she's hired me to do tracking on this person, they are not probably on good terms, and they weren't. So it was an awkward meeting. There was some tension. There was like, what are you doing? What's going on? Kind of thing. But it turns out the woman had her dog with her and refused to go in the store. And while the lady was talking to the other lady, my client was talking to the woman that I needed to do the tracking on, she's also texting me and I'm answering her. And I said, look, just keep her busy. While they were standing at the lady's driver's door talking, I got out of my car, my SUV, walked around to the passenger side front, laid down on the ground, and it was in the middle of July, I think. It was so hot outside, and that parking lot was brand new blacktop, the really slick blacktop, and oh my God, I about burnt the crap out of my whole body doing this. But I laid down under the lady's car and put the tracker on while they were standing at the driver's door. Got back up. I had a habit of keeping my keys with me, and it was a dummy set of keys. It was not my real keys. And that way I could, if I needed to do this in the middle of the day, I could drop my keys and make them kind of go under the car. And then I would drop down really quickly, act like I'm trying to get to the keys, and throw the tracker on and get back out. I've done that a few times. So that took nerves of steel, definitely. But one of the craziest cases I ever did, I'm going to be careful about giving too many details because I'm worried that, I don't know, it was a pretty specific case. So I'm not going to share a lot of details about the actual case. But my goal was to get photographs of the housing situation for 3 minors that were in the custody of their mother. DFACS had already removed them one time. I believe the father was in prison, and it was maybe the grandmother, the father's mother, who had hired us. And she was trying to get custody of the 3 children. It was a 2-year-old little girl, an 8-year-old boy. It was either 6 or 8-year-old little boy and a 12-year-old girl. And they were living in absolutely deplorable conditions. That's all I will say, because I don't want anybody to Google the news story or anything like that. But so my goal was to get proof of where they were, what conditions they were in, so that it could be reported to DFACS again and hopefully get the children taken completely away from the mother. I don't like doing child custody cases because, when adults are doing things that are stupid, they're adults. When children are involved, there's more at stake, and children are innocent. So it always made me feel really guilty. So, it was just the very worst case scenario as far as doing a child custody case on this. And the way that the property was set up, there were actually 4 houses, but one was way back off the road. But right next to the road, there was like a cute little house, and then there was a trailer, and then there was a shack. And the shoulder of the road went down like this, and then there were the homes. So I couldn't park, and this was way out in the country somewhere. I won't say where. Excuse me. But in order to be able to do the surveillance on this property, I had to park on the property. So now how do I explain why I'm parking on the property? Because it's very definitely private property. There's no excuse for me to be there. So what am I going to do? So after doing Google satellite images before I went to the property, you always want to do that and make sure you have an in and an out. And like if it's a neighborhood, there's a way to get in and a way to get out, another way, and things like that. I noticed this situation. So I printed out a missing poster with my oldest daughter's face on it. I was really worried about doing that. I was worried that it was bad karma. But anyway, obviously she's not really missing. But anyway, so I print out this missing poster. At the time, I want to say she was 19. And the backstory was, and none of this was true, that she had a daughter and she was 18 months old, and that she had gotten wrapped up in this guy that was, like a meth dealer, and or was doing, doing a lot of drugs, and that she had just been missing, and that I had put a GPS on her car because I was worried about her. And the last place that I saw the signal for the GPS was right in that area. And I think that the battery died on the GPS and I didn't get a chance to change it out. May I please, here's the picture of my daughter. Have you seen her? Do you know where she might be? Do you know anybody that might know where she is in this area? And please, may I sit? I'm so worried. I'm just the grandmother, and she's left the daughter with me. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just really worried. Can I please sit on your property and wait to see if his car goes by? And I had picked out the most randomly detailed vehicle that you could possibly imagine. It was like a 1982 Honda Civic, and it looked like it had been spray painted bright blue, and it had very loud exhaust on it so that I had an excuse that I could hear the car coming. And it had tinted windows, but that it was really bad tint and had been peeling off. My goal was to not find this car. I didn't want anybody to say, "Oh my gosh, there's this car." So I go knocking on each of the doors and get permission. And when I knocked on the first door, this rather scary, sketchy looking country guy comes to the door. He's not wearing a shirt. He's got this big beer belly, and he's got this big tall boy Budweiser in his hand, and it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. And I show him the picture, and I'd printed extras, so I gave them to the guy, and I was like, I'm looking for this person, and I had a spoof number on it that wasn't really my number. It was not a working number at all, by the way, so that if anybody tried to call the number, whatever, nobody would get through to me. But anyway, so I back into this tree line, and I'm sitting there, and I'm getting the pictures that I need. And it was really hard to do that, by the way, because this was in the middle of the summer. I was absolutely sweating my butt off. It was so hot in my car, and I can't leave it running constantly. It's just, it's not good for your car. So I would have to turn it off every once in a while. And to know that the children that I was watching were in those conditions in this place with no AC and anyway, it was really hard. But at one point, the second day that I was doing this, out of the 3 days, the old Budweiser guy comes out of his house 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning with a tall boy, comes out to my car, knocks on the window. Hey. I was like, "Yes, sir. How can I help you?" Roll the window down, He's like, "I know where your daughter's at." And I'm thinking, me too. She's at home. But I can't say that. So I said, "Oh my God, are you serious? Well, where is she? What do you know? Please tell me." He said, "She's right across the street over there. I saw her and her little boyfriend in that little blue Honda sitting over there last week. I just remembered that. They're sitting right back here. You just take a drive, go back out on the road, make a right, and it's the very next left, and it's a long gravel driveway." Sketchy. But I'm a worried mother. I'm specifically there to find my daughter. Of course I have to go check this out. And it's close enough that I can't just drive by the gravel road. I have to turn down the gravel road because the guy's standing right there. So I back out of the driveway. I get on the road. I make the left. And this gravel road is so narrow that the tree line, the bushes and the trees on the side, are hitting my car. There is no chance of me turning around or doing anything to get out of there. I'm stuck on this road until it opens up and I can turn around. It was probably a quarter of a mile long, maybe a little longer. And just as it starts opening up, there are 4 trailers that are in a line like this, just as I come out. Now, at the time, I am burning up. It's really, really hot, like I said. And all I was wearing was like a wife beater. And you can see my tattoos. I have platinum blonde hair. Like, I don't look threatening at all. I don't know what I look like, but I definitely don't feel like I look threatening, okay? So I'm like just turning on the charm really quickly, because as soon as the tree line opens up and I see this, each one of the doors open and a guy walks out and stands on the little porch right there of each place. I was like, oh, this is good. This is awesome. Super good little tip this man gave me. Hi y'all, how you doing? Sorry, I'm lost. I'm just gonna turn around. My windows were down because it was hot. I was like, hey y'all, how you doing? I'm sorry, I'm lost. What am I supposed to do? Let me just turn around. Y'all have a good day now. No, they weren't buying it. I got a good U-turn done and start heading back out, and I didn't punch it to like don't run from the lion kind of thought. But really quickly I punched it. I heard gunshots. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Only one that I heard. There was potentially two shooting at me, but I think it was just one. And I'll have to find the video because I started recording so that my boss could hear this in case, and I could talk about what was going on in case I didn't make it out. I didn't expect to, because I was so close to them. I mean, I was 20 feet from them when they started firing. But I remember, I called my boss first and I was like, Melanie, they're shooting at me. She was like, who's shooting at you? And I said, I don't have time to explain, but I'm being shot at right now. She goes, you are not. And about that time, she caught, the audio of what was going on around me. She was like, oh my God, Rebecca, you're being shot at. I said, I told you that. I'm being shot at right now. And you could hear the footsteps of the guy running on this gravel road. And I'm sure you can probably hear it in the video too. And then you'd hear 6 shots. And a few seconds later, 6 more shots. I don't know if he was reloading, if he had more than one gun. I don't know. But I do know that had he wanted to kill me, I would have been dead. I feel like they were warning shots, very serious warning shots. Or the guy was drunk and couldn't hit, the broadside of a barn. I don't know which. I don't care. I just know that I got out of there. So I pull out and I go right, and the property that I had been at was like over here, but I go this way just to get the hell out of the situation briefly, to decide what I wanted to do, get out of there. I stop on, when I know I'm safe and I'm down the road, I stop for a second. I take a deep breath. I watch the video back and I'm like, that just happened. That just freaking happened. And I'm trying to figure out if the old man did that on purpose. Did they plan that? Because they figured out that I was doing surveillance on that house? Or was it all a coincidence? I have no idea. But I will tell you this. I pulled back down into that property and I stayed for the rest of that day and one more day. And I got the pictures that I needed, and the kids were taken away from the family. And that was what was the important part. So I'm proud of that. Just talking about that gets me kind of excited again, just not in a good way. So some of the crazier things that I've had to do are I've had more than one client that was the mistress and not the wife. And in both cases, no, that's not true. So one of them was trying to get information on, like, he's supposed to be with me, why is he with his wife, and, whatever. But the other one kind of broke my heart because they were a very religious group of people, and they all went to the same church. They were upper class, income people. They had very good families. So the couple that was married, they had older children, and the last child was about to go to college. And the story was that when that last daughter went to college, that he was gonna leave his wife, and that they had already discussed it, and she knew it, and they were only staying together until the child finished college or went to college or something. I can't remember. But that he never wore his wedding ring, and it was, you know, just all a sham and whatever. And that's what he was telling the mistress. But the mistress felt really bad because she was worried that her boyfriend, the husband of the other woman, was not being truthful with her, shocking, and that he actually was still in a real marriage and did not have any intention of telling his wife, or, you know, whatever. So she was just trying to find out what the status was of his marriage, but more importantly, she was trying to make sure that it wasn't affecting his relationship with his children. She was very worried that, I think he had like 3 older daughters, and she was very worried that this would negatively affect his daughters. And so she wanted to see, are they a family, you know, just whatever. So I actually joined their church. And I won't say what denomination it is, but that was pretty crazy too. I joined their church. I sat through the sermon, did the whole thing, introduced myself to people, got the whole welcoming committee, the whole thing, whole time knowing I'm going to hell for this, by the way, and got pictures of him in church with his family, wearing his wedding ring, being very loving towards his wife, which he swore that they never did. And fortunately, though, he had a very good relationship with his daughters. But as a result of what I did, the woman ended up breaking up with the man and said, you know, I'm not able to do this anymore. I would rather you be with your family. So one of the craziest cases that I've done is one of the first cases that I did. As a private investigator, you always want to have some sort of a jump bag with you, you know, like a go bag. You want to keep it in your car with you at all times, and it will have a change of clothing, snacks, something to do, you know, crossword puzzles or whatever. I used to keep my knitting in there. And just important things that you would need, you know, a toothbrush, toothpaste, anything where if you got stuck somewhere, you would have, you know, the basic necessities. At this point, though, I wasn't smart enough to have a go bag, even though Melanie had told me, make sure you have a go bag in your car. I hadn't quite done that yet, because all of the cases that I had worked up to that point, and they were only a few, were just around town. Why would I need a change of clothing, you know, to go and do a case? I'm getting a sore throat, sorry. But so I get called on this case. I get the email, get the backstory, yada yada. I get in the car, I go taking off after this chick. I had to drive all the way to, do I want to say what city? I don't. So I had to drive about 2 hours to get to this city from Canton, where I lived. And I get to this place, find the girl. I want to say there was already a tracker on her car. Yes, there was already a tracker on her car. So someone else had already been following her, and I took the case over. So I get down there, I find her, no problem. I'm watching her. And then she comes out of her house, and I noticed that she had a big bag with her, but I wasn't sure what it was. It was dark and I couldn't really tell. She had something with her anyway. So fast forward, I'm following her. We drive about 2 hours. We get into Atlanta. We drive through Atlanta. We keep driving. This is at about 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, where the hell is she going? What is going on? We end up in Pawleys Island, South Carolina. I drove all night. I had no clothing with me, no toothbrush, no makeup, no nothing. Just me and my purse in my car. That was it. So I had to expense out some basic necessities while I was on the trip. But the good thing is I got paid, I think it was about $500 for the weekend, and got to stay in this really cute little B&B and got paid to sit on the beach and take pictures of this really rather handsome couple and frolicking in the sand and laying out and drinking and being naughty. And yeah, so that was my fun case. And that wasn't the only one that turned into a weekend. So another case was I was following this woman. We think she's just going to go meet her boyfriend. We end up in Auburn, Alabama for the weekend at the Country Music Festival. That was crazy. I was really pissed at that one because it was the Country Music Festival and there were gorgeous cowboys and cowgirls everywhere. Everyone was in their absolute Sunday country best outfits. The kick-ass boots, the hats, the nice tight jeans. I was in like my worst jeans. We all have our worst jeans, right? Like a t-shirt and tennis shoes, which I never wear, but they were comfortable. And all I thought I was doing was taking a quick surveillance case. So I'm in freaking old tennis shoes, yucky jeans, a dirty t-shirt, no makeup, and my hair up in a bun for the Country Music Festival. I have never been in such a crabby ass mood in my life. I could not enjoy the concert. So the client had a lot of money, and he ended up getting me, like, I guess at the Auburn Music Festival, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So the football field was like the floor seats. And then we, the only tickets my company could get, or the guy could get firsthand, were like way, way up. Well, I end up finding the woman, and she obviously, of course, she has front row seats down on the floor, like 6 rows back. And I said, okay, well, at this point, I don't give a crap. And all I want to do is go home and take a shower and put on some clean clothes and put some makeup on so I don't look like a potato. And so I said, you know what? I can't do anything. I can't pull out a telephoto lens at this point. I didn't bring it anyway. So I got to go home, and I'm super sorry. I can't get the information that you need. They were like, give me just a second. We're going to get you better seats. But all he could get me last minute for like $1,200 was right on the edge of the field. And you still have to go through security to get onto the floor. So at this point, I'm like, I'm all in. I'm going to do this. I already look like a potato. It doesn't matter. I don't care anymore. Let's just get what this freaking client came for. So I can't remember what story I gave to that security guard. I want to say that I hadn't seen my sister in like 20 years. And I swear to God, I just caught sight of her. It was either my sister, my best friend, my brother. It was someone that I hadn't seen in a long time. And I mean it. I'm telling you, Mr. Security Guard, I just saw them. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not just doing this. I don't even care about the concert. You can watch me. I'm not going to be paying attention to the music. I just really need to see if this is my friend or my sister or whoever it was. And I said, here's my driver's license. You can hold my driver's license. I can't go back home without this. I promise, whatever. And he let me onto the field. So I get onto the field. I run up to where she was. She had left to go get a drink. So I sit in her seat. And fortunately, everybody was kind of standing up at this point. So I'm standing at her seat. And I'm talking to her boyfriend, the boyfriend. And I'm like cutting up, and I'm, of course at this point I'm just a fan, and I'm talking and doing all this other stuff, and I take out my phone and start doing a video of the crowd. And about that time she comes up, and I shockingly, like I was surprised, turned the phone around and got her on video. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Did I steal your boyfriend? Y'all make such a cute couple. Snap, snap, get pictures and videos. What's your name? Hi, I'm Rebecca. They said their names, the whole thing, got all of it. And I was about 5 minutes late getting back to the security guard, and he was standing there with his hands on his hips, like, but whatever. I got what I needed to do, and I got out of there. One of the other cases that I did, so a lot of people, when they ask me, like, tell me what you do, what's the craziest thing that's ever happened? The most disturbing thing, other than the child custody cases that I did, was there was a 74-year-old man. The daughter of the man, they lived somewhere up north, and I won't say where. And for the last 40 years of this man's life, he had a business, which I'm assuming he has to actually have had a business here in Atlanta, but he would come down on a Tuesday and stay in Atlanta from Tuesday through Friday, I want to say. He would fly in on a Tuesday. He had a car waiting at the airport. He had a car here. It wasn't like a rental. He would get the car and he would go to his hotel. He would conduct his business for the few days that he was here, and then he would go home. Well, the oldest daughter, who, she was in her 30s or 40s at this point, she is just worried about him. She's like, I just don't understand what's going on. There's so many times where he's down there and we can't reach him and we don't understand. And so just purely out of her concern for him, he's 74 years old. No one's like, gosh, I wonder what he's doing down there. The woman, the daughter, had like the whole family put on one of those Lifeline apps where you can track where everybody is. And he didn't understand that it was on his phone. Or it was either that, or in the beginning, it was meant legitimately to watch the family and make sure everybody was safe, but whatever. So she contacts us, and because at one point she noticed that he had started going to a residence instead of a hotel, and that obviously piqued her interest. She never really believed that he was having an affair or anything like that, but she just didn't understand it, and she didn't feel comfortable confronting him. I pick him up at the airport I don't pick him up at the airport. I see him at the airport. I follow him. I don't have a tracker on him, which those are the ones that are really scary, because if you lose them, you've lost them. But I pick up the guy. He drives all the way from the Atlanta airport to Woodstock, and I see him pull into a gated community. Now, one thing I will say about myself that is not very flattering is I learned to lie on the drop of a hat. And I don't mean lie as in, something that I'm trying to get myself out of trouble for or something like that. But I can come up with a backstory so fast it'll make your head spin. I remember one time that, I'm getting off the subject here, but one time I was on the phone with my mom, and I didn't happen to notice that the guy I was doing surveillance on comes out of wherever it was he had been. I think it was his work, and it was in one of those like industrial parks, whatever. And he comes up and knocks on my window. You're not supposed to make eye contact with the target that you're watching, because if you make eye contact, and especially me being platinum blonde with tattoos, which, let's face it, that's not very smart as a private investigator, but who says I'm smart? And you're, say, in Athens, and then you follow them all the way to Marietta, and you're in some little dive bar in Marietta somewhere, and they see you again 2 days later, and they remember you, it's like, didn't I see you? What's going on here? So you try not to ever let them see you, and if they see you, you never make eye contact. Do not be memorable in any way, shape, or form. And in my defense, also, a lot of the times I wore your typical black hat and black outfit so that you just kind of blend in. You never try to stand out. But anyway, so I'm on the phone with my mom. This guy comes up, knocks on my window, and accuses me of being a private investigator and watching him. Hello, are you insane? And I just came out of the hip with the weirdest little backstory of what I was doing there, and the fact that I was talking to my father and he was on his deathbed, and how dare you interrupt my conversation? Back away from my car or I'm calling 911. And the guy was like, I'm super sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought you were following me. You need to get a freaking life. The world does not revolve around whoever you are. he backs away. And then I just went back to what I was talking to. I was talking to my mother, whatever. And she's not saying anything. I was like, Mom, are you still there? She said, Becky, what just happened? And I was like, I'm so sorry. The guy that I was doing surveillance on, he walked up. Yeah, whatever. She was like, who are you? How did that even happen? Like, where did you come up with that story? I was like, oh, I don't know. I said, as a PI, we're supposed to know like ahead of time what our backstory is in case somebody comes up to us. And I'm super bad about planning that ahead of time. So I've had to get really good about coming up with a backstory really quick. I'm getting off the subject again, but one other funny story is that I was needing to knock on someone's door to get pictures. No, I guess I wasn't supposed to knock on the door, but I was just doing surveillance, and it was in a cul-de-sac, and it was really tight where the houses were. And so where I was sitting was going to be super obvious again, and you'd be surprised all of the Karens in neighborhoods that are like, excuse me, why are you sitting here? You've been sitting here for 45 minutes. What are you doing? You're making me uncomfortable. Do you know how many times I had the police called on me? So many times. But you know what would always happen? I would show them my driver's license. I would then show them my private investigator's license. And I would say, I'm super sorry, I'm doing surveillance. Would it be better if I left, or is it okay if I sit here? 99.999% of the time, yes, of course it's okay that you're sitting here, and I will let, dispatch know that you're here and that you're licensed and everything is okay, so that they can dispel anything that's going on from anybody else that calls. And also, how did you become a private investigator? I've been thinking about doing that. So many police officers. But anyway, so back to my story. I follow this guy from the Atlanta airport. We get all the way to Woodstock. I follow him to a gated community. I let him go ahead and get in because I've seen his car. I know what I'm looking for. And then I stop and think, okay, I have to figure out a way to get into this gated community. And it's one of the ones where you either have a code or you have to call someone to buzz you in. And another reason why I'm absolutely positive I'm going to hell. I pull up to the gate, dial a random number. It starts ringing. I wait. This old woman answers the phone. Hello? I actually made it seem like I was calling the wrong number, but I didn't know that at the time. And I said, hi, it's Rebecca. So I'm the hospice nurse's daughter, and I'm trying to get to you guys because I understand that the patient there needs this medicine, and I'm so sorry. I'm trying to hurry up, and I'm sorry it took me a little bit longer, but I got lost, but I have the medicine now, and can you please buzz me in? I don't remember the code that they gave me, and I can't get a hold of my mother, who's the nurse, the hospice nurse. She was like, ma'am, I'm so sorry, but you have the wrong number. And I said, oh my God, no, please don't tell me that. I can't get in touch with them. Their phone has died or something. They're not answering me. But my mother is a hospice nurse, and she's in here taking care of someone. And there's medicine that was left at the nursing home or something. I forget what I said. And I've got to get this in there. I said, ma'am, I don't care what you think. I promise you, I just need to get through this gate. Would you please buzz me in? Well, what's your mother's name? And I gave them my real mother's name because at that moment I couldn't think of another name. And so I gave them my mother's name. What road does she live on? I had satellite imaged the neighborhood, and I knew what the street names were. So I came up with a street name, and I actually came up with a number because how does she know what all the numbers are? So I came up with a number that I wasn't sure was right, but how is she going to know? She's like, oh my goodness, okay. Buzz me in and let me in that freaking neighborhood. So I pull in. One of the other things as a PI you have to have at all times is a missing cat or dog. So many times my cat or my dog went missing. So I went into Google and went 20 pages deep, found a picture of a random cat and saved it to my phone. And found, went in and found different pictures of this cat or, just a few different ones so that it wasn't like I just randomly picked one picture out. So I have a little album of a missing cat and of a missing dog so that I can walk a neighborhood, knock on doors, do whatever I need to do. And all I'm doing is looking for a missing animal. And it also helps that if you have this information so you can walk around and you can I actually used that one time to put a tracker on a person's car while they were on their porch calling for my dog. I forgot about that one. He's standing on his porch, and I was like, oh my gosh, so I'm missing my cat. I think it was a cat, actually. It was a black cat, because then that would be harder for them to see and or catch the whole thing. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm missing my cat. This is a picture. Have you seen her? And then as I'm walking down the driveway, I'm like, oh my God, I think I see her under his car. So I lay down under this guy's car and put the tracker on it while he's calling for my cat. So anyway, I park down the street. You can't just knock on the door of the person that you're tracking. You have to also knock on other doors so that if they're watching, you're not just going to their door. Knocking on doors. Hi, I'm so sorry. My mom lives down here and I'm back, I'm only here for a short time and I don't know this area and I've got my cat with me and she jumped out of the car and I'm freaking out. And actually, I think the story was that I was house sitting for my mom and I let my mom's cat out of the house and she lived down the street. And again, I used my mom's real name because again, I blanked on a name. But I used the same random address. So because people would ask me, oh, where does your mother live? What's your mother's name? People are nosy as hell. So I end up getting to this old man where the house that he was parked in front of. I knock on the door. Y'all, when I tell you, this man had a whole damn family in Atlanta for almost 40 years. He had grown-ass children in this home. What? How do I know that? Because I know for a fact that his family up north didn't know anything about these people. And when I knocked on that door and I talked to this gray-haired woman standing there, I looked behind them and there is this huge big wall. One wall that goes like this and goes down, and I could see all the pictures on this side. There's a whole bunch of pictures on this side. I could see them on the fireplace mantle. Family photos from the years of this man with this woman and these children. And I proceeded to watch them go out to McKendrick's Steakhouse. And this man had money. He could support both of these families. And it was one of the kids' birthdays, and they had this big, huge birthday party, and it was the daughter, this 30-something-year-old daughter, and happy birthday, whatever her name was. And y'all, I didn't know whether to be angry or impressed. He had a whole damn family here. He wasn't just a mistress. It was a family. He had like children and a dog, and he was talking, he had both the families believing they were the only ones. What? This is why I don't trust people. Crazy. Okay, so now my favorite story, one of my favorite stories. I may be giving away too many details in this one, but I can't help it. Everybody involved kind of deserved it, except for the husband. But I get a call that there's a 40-something-year-old woman, and she lives in, I'm just going to say it, she lives in Noonan. Very well-to-do. The mortgage on this house was like $10,000 a month. Wait, you know what? I think I'm remembering the number wrong. It was a 10,000 square foot house. I beg your pardon. Anyway, huge, big house. Had older children in college, the whole thing. And she was having an affair with her best friend's son, who was 19 years old. And let's not make any comparisons with Rebecca. Okay? Let's not go there. But yeah, so she was having an affair with her best friend's son. He was in Kennesaw College. I ended up putting trackers on her SUV and his car. I forget what kind of car he had, but it was this weird little foreign car. Anyway, he's the one that got me so good at doing trackers because, you know, at the time I lived in Canton and he was at Kennesaw College. I won't say what area he lived in, but he lived off campus in an apartment complex right near Kennesaw College. And every 4 or 5 days, I would have to sneak into the campus little apartment complex, and very brightly lit, the guy's apartment. He always parked right outside of his apartment. I swear to God, the man never slept. And so I would have to sneak in, get the freaking tracker off of the car, go back to my car. I would sleep because it would always be 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Or sometimes I did it at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And then before I would go do this other case that I had started working on that had to be like super early in the morning because I had to watch this guy take his kid to school every day. And so I would go get there at like 4 o'clock in the morning, sneak over, get the tracker off the car, put it back in my car, charge it, sleep for a couple of hours while it was doing that, and then my alarm would go off and I'd undo it, and I always have to find it again. More than once, someone would catch me laying under this guy's car. What are you doing? Looking for my cat. What else would I be doing? But anyway, so basically this case went on for about 3 weeks because the husband really, he was already aware that it was going on, and he really wanted an airtight case, okay? So I'd gotten plenty of pictures of them sitting in a car together, you know, whatever, making out, things like that. But he was spending major bucks to get like a lot of evidence. So my goal basically was literally for 3 weeks, every couple of hours, I would check the app for the trackers. And when I started seeing them go together, it was go time. And at one point I started noticing that he was moving. He kept moving, and then her car started moving, and they started coming together, but he goes all the way to Noonan. They meet up in this parking lot. I won't say where. At that point, I parked across this little side road, and I had a perfect view of his car and her car. He gets out, gets in her SUV. They start making out hot and heavy. Literally, the windows are fogging up, you know, and I'm getting all these pictures. And then all of a sudden, he gets out and goes and gets back in his car. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, that was it. No, that was not it. That was not it. So I'm watching to make sure that was it. And they both pull out of the parking lot, but they go down this other side road. And they pull into I won't say where again, but they pull into this little parking lot in full view. I mean, granted, it's a side road and it's like an industrial parking area, but if they'd have went around back behind the building, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did. But anyway, they pull up. He gets back out of his car. He gets into her car. Clothes start coming off. Butts going everywhere. Snapping away. They could give a shit less about what I'm doing. So I'm snapping away. I get all these pictures of body parts and steamy kisses and all kinds of stuff. Seats go back up, whatever, and I'm feeling really good about myself. You know, I got exactly what the guy wanted. The kid, he was a good-looking kid, too. He gets back out, gets in his car, and I pull away. As soon as I know that he's, you know, getting out of the car or whatever, I go ahead and pull away and leave so they don't see me. I pull over into a parking lot real quick, and I had been writing my report because I've been sitting there for a long time. So, you know, I open up my notes app, and I'm this, that, and the other thing, and I text my boss. I text Melanie, oh my gosh, you're not gonna believe this. I got this. I'll send you the pictures when I get back. And I think the case is over, whatever. So I go to get back out onto the main road in Noonan, and I'm in line to make a left to get onto 85 North, and something catches my eye, you know, out of the corner of my eye in traffic, and I look over, and it's this big, huge, white, giant puff of vape smoke, and I was like, what the hell? Well, when the smoke cleared, it was the 19-year-old. as I've said before, you're not supposed to make eye contact with these, with the targets. I look, but it's too late. I'm already looking at the guy. And again, I'm wearing like a white tank top or some sort of short sleeve shirt, my platinum blonde hair, and I'm just staring at the guy like deer in the headlights. And he looks at me and he's like, what's up? I was like, what do you say, right? He goes, nice tattoos. Thanks. He goes, roll your window down. I just shake my head at him. His face is still glowing from the sex he just had with his best friend's mother. Roll your window down. I'm just staring at him and saying no. He goes, give me your number. And then I just drive away. And I was like, oh my God, that's so going in the report. Now, I want everyone to think for a second how this is going to play out. Because when I called Melanie and told her, the dude just pulled up and asked the private investigator that just got pictures of him having sex with his best friend's mother, his mother's best friend, sorry. He asked her, after having sex with this woman, he's still flushed from having sex. He's asking me for my phone number, the private investigator. Oh my God. Melanie was like, put that in the freaking report. So I did. And I would have killed to be in the room when that woman realized what had happened. Now, a little backstory on that also. For the record, I heard, and this is allegedly, I don't know this for a fact, but I heard that she used to go spend the night with her best friend and go sneak down to his room and have sex with him. That is wrong. But basically, she got what she deserved anyway. So anyway, I think that if I think of any other interesting cases or whatever, I will, I'll let you know. I will say one thing. Actually, I started to tell you something earlier and forgot to finish the story. So the place that I had to sit in the super tight cul-de-sac where I needed to sit there and I knew that all the Karens would come out and call the police and have all these things happen or whatever, I actually ended up having business cards printed up for this very same backstory, this fake story of mine, that I worked for a movie production company called 12 Monkeys. And I don't know if there better not be. I don't think there's really a company called 12 Monkeys Productions. But I came up with the name. I made up a logo. I did the whole thing. I put a fake name on it, and I always use the same fake name, by the way, which I won't say what it was. But and I ended up getting a second line that would ring to my phone, so that if somebody needed to call the number, they would get me, but not have a number that would track me. Anyway. So I have these business cards printed up. It's the best, most intelligent thing ever that I've ever thought of. So if I needed to sit in a particular area for a while and somebody came up to my car and asked me questions, I would be like, I am super sorry. Here's my card. This is, I'm just doing, I work for this company and they are considering using this particular street for a movie production, but they need me to sit here for a minimum of up to 72 hours at different times of the day to see what kind of air traffic, what kind of road traffic, what kind of noises are in the area, what kind of, just basically I have to fill out a whole report on this particular street. And I'm so sorry, but you can call and verify with my boss that this is legitimately why I'm here. And I'm so sorry. I don't want to, I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. Yes, that got me into many a neighborhood. And I got to sit there for the longest time. So yeah, that's about all I can think of right now. Keep in mind that all of the funny and crazy stories that I'm telling you, in between all of these stories, I sit in my car for 12 to 14 hours sometimes, where, there's no bathroom, you can't get out to go get something different to eat, you make yourself insane. and you start questioning your life choices. Why do I do this? This is so boring. I just want to go home and sleep. Because you can't sleep. You have to pay attention to what you're doing, or else the 8 hours before you fell asleep mean nothing if 5 minutes after you fall asleep, the crazy thing happens that you're trying to find. So there's no sleeping. You just have to focus and pay attention, and you will question your life choices more than once when you're doing this. But then every once in a while, you get a case that reminds you, oh yeah, that's why I do this. That's awesome. I love my job. So I miss it a lot, and I'm angry that I let my license lapse. So I'm hoping that I get my license fixed soon and I can go back to doing it every once in a while. I really don't have time to do it, and I love the job that I have right now, and I'll never give that up. But I want to get my license fixed so that if something comes up, then I can definitely, take on a case here and there. If you have any questions, or you have any crazy stories of your own, feel free to mention it in the comments. And if you would like more of my stories, also let me know. Make sure you like and share and subscribe, please. Thank y'all.